to another Bookmas video. Today I am sharing with you 10 authors that I would like to read more from. But first of all, I got to thank Sean for lending me his dinosaur jumper. It's an amazing Christmas jumper and he's really proud of it. They all have Christmas hats on, so he just wanted me to give him a shout out for letting me film in his jumper because it's too comfy. But these authors are all ones that I've only read, oh no. I've read one book by most of them, but there's also like a favourite author in here. I'm sure you can guess who that's going to be because who don't I talk about in every single video. But these are authors that I'd like to read more from and hopefully will. So without further ado, it's just going to do what it says on the tin really. So the first author I would like to read more from is Tess Sharp, who is the author of Far From You. This is one of my favourite contemporary YAs ever. It's got like a mystery element to it. There's a lot of discussion of grief. There's a lot of discussion of like sexuality. And I just think that Tess Sharp hits all of the nails on the head. And I think the bisexual representation in it in particular is superb. Like, it's the best way that I've seen bisexual representation, especially like the coming out aspects, handled in a novel. Tess Sharp's The Girls I've Been is coming out in January, and I've luckily been accepted for a copy on NetGalley, so I'm hoping to read more from her really, really soon. And that is about a girl who, like, her relationship with her boyfriend ends, and then he kind of walks in on her with the girl who's like the third in their little like friendship triangle, so it's all a bit awkward. And then they get caught up in like a bank robbery together, and she's also the daughter of like a con artist, so she knows all about like changing her identity and things. Like, it sounds like it's gonna be doing a lot all at once, and it's gonna be a wild ride, but I'm more than happy to buy a ticket for it. The next author I'd like to read more from is Non-Pratt. The only Non-Pratt books that I've read so far are Unbox and Second Best Friend, which are her two collaborations with Barrington Stoke, which is a publisher who write dyslexia-friendly stories with mainstream authors. So it's like you get the big font and it's like a very short story, but it's just as fleshed out and well crafted as you would expect a longer kind of traditional form novel to be. But I own basically all of Non-Pratt's books and I've only ever read the two short stories, and I don't quite know why, especially because I won a copy of Truth or Dare. I'd already pre-ordered a copy of Truth or Dare, and then my friend gave me a proof of Truth or Dare, and I've got them all signed because I met Non-Pratt and the one I won was signed, but I've just never read it. So I feel as though I need to get on board with that sooner. So Non-Pratt is a UK YA author, writes contemporary novels about kind of relationships between people at school. I've loved both of her short stories, and I've reread Second Best Friend either 2 or 3 times because I enjoyed it that much. So these are definitely ones that I need to read more of. Another UK YA author who I need to read more from is Dean Atter, who wrote The Black Flamingo. I read this because it was shortlisted for the YA Book Prize earlier in the year, and I always read the YA Book Prize shortlists, so if Dean Atter releases any more verse novels, then I'm definitely going to be picking them up because I think his writing is superb. This one in particular I highly recommend because like you get lots of like illustrations throughout that add a lot to the story. And I just think that the way that it's told, I have a very love-hate relationship with verse novels. I think that if they're done well, they're done brilliantly, and if they kind of miss the mark, it really makes for a disjointed reading experience, and it is hard to redeem it, like, if it doesn't do it right. But The Black Flamingo is the perfect example of a verse novel in my mind. You follow a boy called Michael who is going to university, and he is discovering himself and deciding to express himself through the media of drag. And I just think that the way that this is told, you think it's going to be one story, but it's actually Michael's whole life. Like, you join him from when he's a very young boy, you join him through his coming out experience, you join him as he's kind of experiencing love for the first time and growing to love himself. And it's a very powerful story, and it's just brilliant. I can't recommend this enough. The next author I'd like to read more from is another contemporary author, and that is Sandhya Menon, who wrote When Dimple Met Rishi. I read this book and I absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars, was lucky enough to receive a proof of it because I was part of the blog tour, and I just raved about it for months and months and months because this is a stunning novel. There's a few kind of controversies about it because a lot of people don't like Dimple. But I love her. I love Rishi. I think that their relationship is great. I think that the discussions about like arranged marriage and the way that it might not be the choice that you would make for yourself, but your parents can know what is best for you, so it can end up being a good thing even if it's something that you're kind of inherently against. I love the discussions about women in tech, because Dimple is trying to do a placement at a university, and it's one that she's had to kind of fight her parents to be allowed to go on. But I just think Dimple is the kind of girl that I want to read more stories about, and I'm hoping that Sunday Manon's other novels will follow similar girls. I'm interested in all of them. I've got which one have I got? I've got another one of hers that I need to read. I can't even see it on my shelf anymore. From Twinkle with Love. So I've got Sunday Manon's From Twinkle with Love up on my shelf, so I will probably be picking up that one next. But I think that all of her novels, even though they're kind of standalones, it sounds like they're all companion novels, so you get the same characters kind of coming back again and again. And I love books that are like that, so I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy the rest of her writing. Another author I really want to read more from is Samantha Shannon. Strangely enough, I'm yet to read The Bone Season, or any of the books in the Bone Season series, but I've read The Priory of the Orange Tree, despite the fact that it is a chunky monkey, and I'm not the kind of person that picks up big books easily. So The Priory of the Orange Tree is an adult high fantasy, kind of King Arthur retelling, but more sapphic, is probably the best way to describe it. There is a hell of a lot going on in this book, as you can tell by the fact that it's so big, but there are dragons, there's betrayal, there are vast cross-world journeys that can be hard to get your head around but are worth it in the end. There are pirates. There's just so much in here that I would recommend, and it's the kind of book that even though it's so big, I enjoyed it so much and I felt so immersed in the world that I want to reread this, especially because Samantha Shannon said she won't be writing like any direct sequels to this, but she might be writing more books in this world, and I want that. I want so much more from this world, because it's so well crafted, and if Samantha Shannon's world building in The Bone Season is as good as it is in this, then that is going to end up being my new favourite series, so I just need to get on and read it. Talking of favourite series, here's the predictable one. I want to read more from Pierce Brown. Of course. Well, I mean, I want to finish the Red Rising series when book 6 is eventually announced and released. I love books 1 to 3. I loved book 4. Book 5 was the only one that I haven't given 5 stars to yet, and I'm still a bit devastated about it, but we'll forget that. But what I want to read is Pierce Brown outside of the Red Rising universe, because I want to know that he can write things that aren't just Darrow and this world. I love his writing. I think he is absolutely astounding. He's recently written a short story in a Star Wars collection, and I'm not a Star Wars fan, but I am so tempted to pick that up because I love him. And he's my favourite author, despite the fact that Dark Age was a little disappointing. And I will read anything that he puts out, and I'm looking forward to him writing more kind of original characters and original stories, because if they're as unique as Red Rising, they're going to be must-buys for me. I'm just going to talk about Pierce Brown in basically every video this month. I'm really sorry. The next author I'd like to read more from is Victoria Schwab. So I've currently read the Archived series, the Cassidy Blake series, and the first book in the A Dark Shade of Magic series. So I'm hoping to eventually read the Villains duology, the Our Savage Song duology, and the Invisible Life of Adia LaRue. I love Victoria Schwab's writing. I think that she does spooky brilliantly. Like, the Archived series and the Cassidy Blake series both follow people who are kind of helping ghosts to find peace. One of them is middle grade, one of them is YA. And I love both of those series so deeply, and I really hope that the Archived series eventually gets that third book, because it is such a good world. I've heard amazing things about Vicious, I've heard amazing things about Adia LaRue, and I want to eventually read all of Victoria Schwab's works, because she's great. The next author I'd like to read more from is Terry Pratchett. So far I have only read Good Omens, and that isn't even a solo Terry Pratchett book, that is Terry Pratchett with Neil Gaiman, and I enjoyed it, and I have enjoyed the few episodes of the TV adaptation that I have seen, but I want to read more Terry Pratchett. My partner's dad has kind of recommended the Discworld novels to me, and he's given me a bit of an idea of the reading order and where to start. So I'm planning on kind of jumping in, soon. And I'm a bit scared. But also we might try and squeeze in this one in December because this is Father Christmas's fake beard. And I think the idea of just a Terry Pratchett children's Christmas story, that should be really, really fun. And it should be a nice quick read as well. It is teeny tiny. It is, oh, it's got an excerpt from Truckers at the end as well. It is apparently 180 pages. So we should probably be able to read this one in a day. So hopefully I'll have read more Terry Pratchett by the end of this month. The next author I'd like to read more from is Stephen King. Before this year, I had only read Carrie, and then this year I've read The Gunslinger, The Drawing of the Three, and It, which, like, that is escalating quickly, going from Carrie to It. But I'll be honest, I haven't been blown away by any of them, which is probably a controversial thing to say. I enjoyed Carrie. I enjoyed The Gunslinger. I thought The Drawing of the Three was not the best, but I also liked it more than The Gunslinger in some ways. And it was a book that ended up disappointing me, and it felt like I'd kind of wasted my time. It's like 1,800 pages, and when you get to the end of a book that's that long, and you're like, oh, I feel a little underwhelmed. It's not the best feeling. But we own a lot of Stephen King because we find him in charity shops very often, and it's easy to get hold of his work, so we will probably just burn through the ones that we've read at the very least. Ones that we own. We'll probably burn through the ones that we own at the very least. But I'd also like to finish the Dark Tower series because this is a 7-book series and we are now 2 books in. Hoping to read The Wastelands in December if we can squeeze it in. But the volumes towards the end, like this is teeny. The volumes towards the end are like this. So that is going to be a task, but it's one that I'm willing to undertake. And the last author that I would like to read more from is Kathleen Glasgow, who wrote Girl in Pieces. This was a 5-star book for me, and I read it in one sitting, and I think it is a brilliant exploration of the way that people deal with self-harm and the recovery process that people go through. It really looks at every single aspect. A lot of this is set in kind of the therapy centre where the girl is getting treatment, and it's very powerful. And for a book that is looking at like YA mental health, I really recommend this one. I don't find it too triggering, and I find a lot of self-harm stuff can put me in a very bad mental headspace, but this one didn't, and I would highly recommend it for that reason, if for nothing else. But please do look up kind of trigger warnings and things for it if you are someone who can find those things difficult to read, because Kathleen Glasgow doesn't really hold back. Like, she does explore all of the aspects. But her second book, which is How to Make Friends with the Dark, has come out fairly recently. I think it was like earlier in the year, and she's just announced another book that is on its way. And based off of how quickly I read this one and how much I enjoyed it, and the fact that I was like nearly sobbing on the coach back from London, like, I definitely want to read more of her writing sooner rather than later. And that is it. Those are the 10 authors that I would really like to read more from as soon as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have an author that you would like to read more from, then please let me know down in the comments. And alternately, if you've read more from one of these authors and there is a book of theirs that you would recommend me pick up, please let me know, and I will get to that as soon as I can, because these are authors, like, some of these authors have a lot of books out, and I'm not really sure where to start, like particularly Non-Pratt and Victoria Schwab. I don't really know where to go from where I'm already at. But if you could give me some advice, I'd really appreciate it. If you'd like this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to subscribe, then I'd be super duper grateful. So if you'll please pop back tomorrow and we'll be uploading another Bookmas video. Bye!